diagnosis day like it was yesterday. It was April 22nd, which is my birthday. And he had a tiny little crooked smile. So one doctor said he has fluid in his ear, he's fine. The other doctor said, maybe we'll get a CAT scan. So they packed us up and they said, nope, we're doing the CAT scan today. We changed our mind. So I called my husband because I was 8 weeks pregnant with my second son, so I couldn't do the CAT scan. So we went and did the CAT scan, and they sent me home, and I stopped at Hannaford and got chicken, and I was feeding Andrew chicken and myself, and the pediatrician called and said, is anyone at the house with you? And I said, no. And he goes, well, who can you call? I said, why? He goes, well, it's not good news. You need to pack your bags and head to Albany Med. You're going to meet with a hematologist named Dr. Mack, and you're going to be there for a while because we found a mass. So this was before cell phones. So I tried to hunt my husband down. Finally, I called a friend, why I called him first, and said, Andrew has cancer, I have to go to Albany Med. And we drove to Albany Med. And we were there. That was April 22nd. His first birthday was May 9th, and I think we were there that first time until May 16th, so we were there for 2 weeks. I don't think that you will ever be the same person that you were before diagnosis, and especially after he passed. I don't know anyone who can be the person they were before. The way that it's affected me, that he has 2 younger brothers. They know who he is. They know of him. And it's always there. It never goes away.
I'm the assistant nurse manager. I'm up on D7 where you were obviously there. So I do half patient care and half office work now. So I do like the scheduling for the nurses, and like if there's patient complaints, I go in and see the families and talk to them and help them out more than I did as just a plain staff nurse. I went into pediatrics. I've been in peds for 17 years now. So I like working with the kids. The kids are great because kids don't realize they're sick. When you're little, you have a fever of 103 and they're still running around playing on the little cars and stuff in the halls, so they don't realize that they are supposed to be laying in bed sick. So working with kids is much different than working with the adults. They're crazy. It's so much fun, and you can't really have a bad day, because if you're having a bad day, you just go in and play with one of the 3-year-olds and you're like, okay, my day's better now I'm good. So it's great. I always was going to be a nurse. I don't know why. I don't know if it's my brother, when I was very little, was sick, and he was in the hospital a lot when he was younger. So I don't know if it's because a couple of my mom's friends were his nurses, and I used to go to the hospital and play with him. So I don't know if it's from him being sick when I was little. Because in kindergarten, you know how they always ask you in kindergarten, what do you want to be when you grow up? And my answer was a nurse, because my mom still has the little paper thing that we had to write up. And then when I was in high school, I worked at a camp for about 15 years it was 2 weeks in the summer for kids with disabilities, from Down syndrome and autistic kids and kids with cerebral palsy, kids with learning disabilities and deaf and blind kids. And I worked there every summer for 15 years and helped them in the nurse's office once I got into nursing school. So I just think I always was going to be a nurse. Not knowing what to say sometimes to the families when you know their child's not going to do well, and not knowing you can't go in and say, oh, everything's going to be okay, because it's not. So not knowing exactly what to tell the families and how to comfort them and make them feel better, that's the worst. Watching them and watching the fathers cry is the worst. When you go in and you go to somebody's funeral, or you go into somebody's room that the parents just got bad news, the father's crying is the worst. It's awful. It always makes you want to cry more.
We had this past summer, we had a family that stayed with us off and on for a while, an oncology patient. She was, I think, 16 or 17. She's going through a bone marrow transplant, and she didn't make it. And not until a few weeks later had we realized that she had a boyfriend over at the hospital. And this boyfriend's parents decided to stay with us as well. And the girl, her family actually paid for the stay of the boyfriend's family here. It was this incredible gesture to show us that we somehow helped both families, even though we didn't do anything different than what we generally do. Well, not only do we let them spend about as much time as possible with their families, because they're right across the street from their child, we also offer them meals, place to sleep, place to shower. We help them with transportation because they're not going back and forth from home. We try to give them support services, programs to help them cope through what they're going through, and pretty much anything else in our capabilities we will do to help families.
Ronald McDonald House is a home for parents and families of seriously ill children. So we house families here from 28 counties in New York State, Western Massachusetts, Southern Vermont, when their children are critically ill. Could be a premature baby, a child with heart disease, a child with cancer, a child that has kidney disease, trauma. When they need to come in by helicopter, ambulance, or the pediatrician says you need to go to a specialized hospital, a children's hospital. Those are the families that use the Ronald McDonald House. But over and above the house, I operate 2 Ronald McDonald family rooms right in the children's hospital. And we have sometimes over 9,000 sign-ins a year in each one of them. So we offer free coffee. Sometimes there's meals, there's snacks. It's run by volunteers, and we have over 250 volunteers a month between here at the Ronald McDonald House, our 3 Victorian homes, 25 bedrooms, or the 2 family rooms. They're there just to register the family and, offer them a snack or just a shoulder to lean on. And then I have a dental care mobile, which is a $450,000 vehicle, 40 foot long, has Ronald on the side of it, and it goes to 8 underserved schools in Albany and does free dental care. Infections in the mouth is what brings down the immune system. That's where heart disease can happen in children. Cancer is when the immune system is low. So we're doing preventative care with our dental care mobile. So we have a dentist, and we don't charge the children. Oh my goodness, I'm a social worker, and I was a professor of mine told me about this job opening and knew the president of the house. I was living in Massachusetts. I'm a New Englander, and I'm a Red Sox and Celtic fan and all that. I don't really belong here, but I've been here for 34 years. And she asked me to interview for this position, but I really wasn't interested in it. I had my life all set in the Berkshires, and my husband was going to be going to grad school over here in Albany, and I was going to grad school in Springfield. And we came over on a Saturday morning and interviewed with the board of directors, and they brought me over here to the house and brought me upstairs to an old grungy attic in this Victorian house built in 1886. And the president put his arm around me after the interview, and he said, "This is where you're going to live." And I said, "Did you guys talk on the way over?" And he said, "We did." They called me Monday, and they said, "We only have 2 months of your salary. We don't have any money. We're just a nonprofit organization. We just became. We don't have to start paying on the mortgage for this house for 9 months. You could go to grad school locally here, like where your husband is. Will you accept the job?" And sometimes you have your life all planned, and God has other, tells you something different. And so I took the job a year before the house opened in 1981, and it's been the most amazing experience. I raised 4 children in this house. This was their home, and they got to be at the bedside of kids who were going through the worst time of their life and very critically ill. They got to see about the courage that children have, and families who say, "Oh, I could never cope with that," and yet you have no choice but to cope. And they had some of the finest examples. Life's not a rose garden, and any time life can change. But how are you going to use it for good things? Are you going to turn around and have a foundation that gives back to people? Are you going to use your your heart and your story to encourage somebody else. And so I think it was the best decision I made to live here at the Ronald House through those 25,000 families and to raise my children here. One of my little girls who came from Thailand numerous times, she was born blind, but they said if we could save her eyes till she's age 13, she had to keep coming from Thailand here to the United States, right here in Albany, we could do an eye implant. So she was blind, and after many surgeries, before she had her eye implants, I was tickling her in that living room one day, and she screamed and yelled for her mother in her language, and her mother came running in, and she could see for the first time. And it wasn't clear, real detail, but she saw light and dark, and she could see figures. At age 13, she had eye implants done. I'm on Facebook with her. She lives in California, but I'll never forget a child being able to see for the first time and to know that her parents exhausted in cash. There's no insurance when you come from another country. Over $100,000 in cash, and they sold all their ancestral jewelry to pay for the doctor appointments to save her eyes. I won't forget that. There's been a lot of firsts. Children who were never supposed to walk, and the doctor said because of they have spina bifida or they had this many surgeries, but they'll never walk. Seeing kids who are wheelchair bound walk because of the new technology, I think that's wonderful. Kids who were never able to see are seeing, and there was a lot of firsts in this house, first steps that have always touched me. But each child touches you in a very special way. Kids who I have an Amish family staying here right now, and their relative stayed here, and a little girl had leukemia, had her treatment, and then relapsed. And there was a new drug out, but the elders of the community said, no, we can't do this. Her kidneys are beginning to fail, and we can't do dialysis. God has spoken, take her home, and she's going to die. And I remember meeting in this room right here, closed all the doors, and I said to those elders, you have to give her a chance with a new medicine. You have to. And they had long white beards, and they made a decision, and she's healthy to this day. She's cancer-free. Kids who were not supposed to live that are living, and it's just so amazing. The miracles, we see a lot of sunshine and more miracles, but there's shadows here in this house, and darkness when it comes to illness. Not every child lives, and so it's a beautiful story of life. This is what happens in life. There's some good times and some bad times, but we all need each other, and this community has been great. The volunteers have been wonderful. So,
like, our mission is to never say no and to really help save the life of that child. So whether it's, one time, 2 times, or 3 times, if that's what it's going to take to help that family and relieve any of that stress and save the life of that child, we will do whatever it takes. So the foundation started when my brother Ryan passed away from cancer when he was just 4 years old. It started in 1998 in living spirit and loving memory of him by my parents, who wanted to help other children and families that are living throughout the Mid-Hudson Valley and help them with anything that they need, financially, physically, emotionally. That way, no parent has to go through what my parents went through. And so our mission as the foundation is to never say no, and to help children and families with life-threatening illnesses, and to do anything that we can to save the life of that child.
When you see a child who is very ill and they have a smile on their face and you help put it there, it's the most amazing feeling in the whole entire world. And just seeing a smile on a child's face, and honestly just seeing a smile on a child's face in a picture. I turn around and in my office I have a picture of Ryan, and I turn around and I look at Ryan and I'm like, all right, we're gonna do this. And honestly, he and I do this, and that's how I do it.
I mean, for me, it's my brother. My brother and my family, and I can't imagine what my parents went through, how they dealt with everything. I was so young, so it's still, I remember everything, and the fact that my brother went through what he went through, and he's so strong, and I don't know how he did it. So to look at all these other little kids that are going through the same thing, it's amazing how strong they are, and I give so much credit to the family and just being able to do it, and how could you not? How could you not help? You're helping children just live another day, and helping their families.
Because as everyone who's been affected by any life-threatening illness knows, it doesn't end when treatment ends. You're still fighting for all these different ways, especially emotionally.
Like, our mission is to never say no and to really help save the life of that child. So whether it's, one time, 2 times, or 3 times, if that's what it's going to take to help that family and relieve any of that stress and save the life of that child, we will do whatever it takes.
So I am a certified child life specialist and a bereavement counselor. And I met the McElroys and fell in love with what they do, obviously. And I have always had some kind of a passion for helping children with cancer, and specifically their siblings. So when this opportunity presented itself, we worked together and kind of created my position so that we're able to go forward and provide the psychosocial supports that Ryan's Foundation is working towards providing right now to our families, and to be able to open up to a little more people. So
We're so happy to have her.
it was fate.
It was meant to be.
It was.
Whatever it is, it's bad, and no one is deserving of it. And I do hope that, the children don't have to suffer from this any longer, because it's not fair to them, their family, friends, anyone. But, with the help of the communities and, everyone, we can end this.
Well, when you talk specifically about cancer, when I first started here in 1981, there was about a 10% chance that a child with leukemia would live. So my kids died, one after another, year of treatment, and then they die. Now leukemia is what, 95%? ALL is 95% curable. Hope, hope always. And brain tumors, they're doing a little better with that. There's all different kinds, but so many of our kids come in here. It's a very hard journey. It's very painful. Kids are very sick, as you know. But they're alive, and they come back and visit, and they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're doing everyday things with their lives because they're survivors of cancer. So I'm hoping there'll be a cure. This one's been a long time coming, but I do see progress.
There's so many different cancers and so many different drugs for them, and so many different treatments, surgeries, and radiation, that I'm hoping that eventually there will be a cure. It's hard because there's so many different types of cancer. To get a cure for all of them it's going to be hard. I think there might be a cure for one, like leukemia, and then I think it's going to take a while for everything to finally be cured and eradicated.
Let's put it this way, I really, really, really hope so. I believe that there's a lot of diseases we've figured out, so I don't see a reason why we can't figure this one out.
I know. All right, go ahead. Next, how about you? With your Christmas dress, it's very pretty. What would you like?
I know. We have something special for you.
Yes, we have something special.
But would you like this?
No, I'm not giving it. You're welcome. That's all right, you know. Right there. All right, take care. Merry Christmas to everybody. Is there anybody else over here? How about sending these 2 girls back over to see Santa? I have something else for these 2 girls. Now, reach in here and see what you guys want. And you're this many years old, right? Oh, this many? Okay, this many. Oh, 5. 3. Oh! You like that?
What's wrong?
You like that? Is there anything else over here you like? Would you like to look over here and see if there's anything else you like? Yes, you too. What else?
She picked something up.
You gave Spider-Man back. I'm gonna take Spider-Man home with me. Well, why don't you take Spider-Man too? Wow. Would you like to do that? You will?
Hi, this is Dr. Mandy Atkinson, and I was Noah Cory's oncologist. Noah is a very special young man to me, as he was my first survivor of stage 4 neuroblastoma. Stage 4 cancer means that the tumor has spread to other parts of the body. And the prognosis for stage 4 neuroblastoma when Noah was diagnosed was about 40% survival rates. The exciting thing about neuroblastoma is now the survival rates have gone up to about 70% of those children diagnosed with metastatic disease or stage 4 neuroblastoma now survive. There are 3 main reasons why we have done so much better over the last 10 years in curing patients with this disease. The first is that we use a consolidation of treatment where we are able to deliver very high doses of chemotherapy in the hopes of eradicating every last tumor cell. And then we rescue the patient's bone marrow back by giving them their own stem cells. The second way that we've been able to improve the survival is we use a medicine called cis-retinoic acid, or Accutane, the same drug that is used to treat acne. And we have discovered that cis-retinoic acid actually induces differentiation or maturation of the neuroblastoma cells. And a mature cell is one that doesn't divide. Therefore, it halts the development of cancer. The last treatment that we've discovered in order to help with neuroblastoma is what we call antibody therapy or targeted therapy. And what we found is that there is a molecule on the surface of neuroblastoma cells that we call GD2. And we use an antibody or a tag that actually attaches to the neuroblastoma cells and signals the immune system that there's something going on in the body that's foreign, and so the immune system gets revved up in order to clear the patient's own tumor cells. And these are some of the ways that we've made advances in neuroblastoma over the last 10 years. So Noah was treated before any of those therapies were known about, and he is a kid who had chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery and came through treatment with flying colors, and I can't remember a time where I ever heard Noah complain. I love you, buddy.
My son was diagnosed at 2.5 years old with a rare form of bone cancer called Ewing sarcoma. And it was a 2.5-year battle that he fought and ultimately succumbed to this horrific disease. And we started Ryan's Foundation in loving memory and living spirit of my son. And it was watching Ryan and so many children go through this that inspired family and friends to start this foundation to help children in our community that have life-threatening illnesses. And to date, I think that we've raised close to $3 million and helped close to 1,400 families living in the Hudson Valley that are suffering from life-threatening illnesses. And I made a promise to my son 15 years ago that I would not let those that knew him forget him, and those that didn't know Ryan would. And today, we have our barn on Ryan's Way on 7 acres of property will be host to thousands of families in the future, and Ryan's legacy will live on forever.